Hi, welcome to my workshop. My name's Darren. When I first built this workbench, I put dog holes in it so I could easily hold down my work all over the workbench. I've got guide rail in the front where I can clamp things to, or front from my side, back from your side I guess, on the three of the legs and on the front there, so I can clamp things to that. Got a lot of clamping space, but when I recently made that router sled, I thought it would be really handy to have another area just in here that I can use for clamping, and if that works well, I'm going to extend it to there, yeah, there, and one through here, so I'll end up with 3 if this one works. The only thing that worries me is the MDF splitting, so yeah, it's not like I'm doing it in plywood this time, but we're going to give it a whirl anyway. It does say you can use it on MDF. I've drawn a line here which is halfway between the dog holes where I want to put my dovetail slot. And this is where having the Festool doghole system really works well, is I can pop a couple of dogs in the holes here, which I've already attached to a fence. Voila! And I can use that to guide my router. I'll have my router sit away from the guide rail a little bit. And for that cut, I'm going to use my OF2200W Festool router with an offset base to compensate for the track. Now this has come up in questions before in other videos. People are expecting me to drop some sort of rail. This here router base has got a step in it, as you can probably see, and the point of that is that allows for the thickness of the track so as the router itself doesn't wobble. So what we're going to do here is just swap out the base. Now if you're not familiar with the Festool, you just pop this little lever, your old base pops off, then you just pop the new router base in its place, push it in, and there we go, voila, that's done. That sits of course with this side away from the fence, so we're going to spin it around there. We've got rod holes here, rod holes, rod, g'day rod, these are your holes, in you go mate. And the same on the other side. On the base of the router here is a little knob, and that just locks rod into his holes. And there we go. Nice and secure on the router side of things. Around this side of course is the block that runs on the rail. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to slide rod in through his holes, but now we're going to move those backwards and forwards a bit until we're centered on that line that we drew. And before I do that, of course, it would make more sense to put in a router bit. So let's do that. Alright, this is my center line as I mentioned earlier, and this router bit here is the first one I want to make a pass on the bench with before going over with the dovetail bit. That will just remove a bit of the wood, so there's not so much pressure on the dovetail bit as that goes through. And I'm going to use this bit to align it with the pencil mark, because obviously it's a lot easier to align a little point like that than it is to try and align something like this. To make it even easier, I'm going to take my awl and drive a little hole or a little dent into the wood with that right on the line, and I should theoretically be able to feel, feel that with the bit. Okay, let's pop it in the router. Here we go, router's unplugged. Now I've just tightened that up finger tight because we'll be taking it out in a moment. We won't be plugging the router in for this. What I'm going to do is try and align that by eye as much as I can with that particular dot that I made with the awl. That's pretty close. So what I'm going to do now, so I'm going to spin around to this side. Now, so I've locked that in place for the moment. That's pretty close where we want it to be. And then I'm going to lock these 2 little screws here. And that then gives us our fine adjustment. Because what we can do now is undo that one again and move this one back and forth. All right. How much do I need to move? Wow, that is so close. In fact, I do believe that is spot on. Now that I've moved all of that, I'm going to lock this in place again, so that keeps all this. Now this should still slide nice and freely, which it does. We can get on to routing our groove. At this point you can probably see the same problem as me, and that is that my rods are going to hit my dogs. Dog and rod don't really want to go past each other, so that's no good. And it's pretty much the same deal here at the other end where I've got a big dog sticking up. So what I've done, down under here, we can see I've gone ahead and I've just used one of those Festool clamps to hold the edge of the rail down in just there. What I'm going to do down here is just remove that dog and replace it with a shorter one. I won't be able to use the clip, but I think that will be okay. They've got the non-slip surface on the bottom of these anyway, so should be all right. I'm going to try and do this in a couple of passes, so here we go. Okay, now with the dovetail bit, I'm just going to follow along the same track and just make that a dovetail shape. That's our dovetail slot routed in the bench, and of course we can stick our micro jig clamp in from either end. I'm going to stick it in from the far end and bring it in towards me, and we'll give this a bit of a go. Alrighty. Yeah, oh yeah, that's working. And now of course I have the option of combining it with my other clamps as well. Yeah, that is well clamped. That's not going anywhere. So yeah, I think the dovetail slot for the clamp's going quite well. Like I said, I will probably end up running one that way and another one vertically further over. I think it's going to come in quite handy. Okay, so I think that's going to prove to be quite useful moving forward. Hopefully it's been of some help to you. Bit of an unusual video, but there you are. Have a great day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.